I will tell you that sleep is the number one thing you must fix if it's broken for your health and your longevity. Welcome to the Aging Backward, Growing Forward podcast. I'm your host, Eric Casaburi, and weekly we're going to go over some tips and tricks for biohacking, health optimization, and making you the best version of yourself. On this week's episode, we're going to talk about some tools to slow down your biological clock. The first thing to understand is knowledge is power. You really want to understand your body and not just your physical body, things you think about your weight or how do your genes fit, but also understanding the biochemistry of your body. What does your blood work look like? You know, most of you have gone a blood panel, hopefully from your general practitioner. Maybe it's your cholesterol. Maybe they talked about your fasted glucose and they reviewed some important biomarkers. But there's a lot of other things that most people do not pay attention to. So a complete blood panel, in my opinion, should be done by everyone. And again, a complete blood panel, the word complete is different depending on what practitioner you're sitting with. I would recommend in the beginning always getting a blood panel, of course, with all of your cardiolipid profile, but also add in there your hormones, your A1C, what does your cortisol look like? CRP is something that's really important. That's called C-reactive protein. Talks about that's inflammation in your body. Along with that, you want to know some of your vitamin levels, maybe vitamin D3. You want to know maybe if you can get an omega panel in there. There's so many different things in what people call a complete blood panel. But having it minimum, that basic data about yourself and your baseline, let's call it, is really going to be the beginning of your action plan. And the action plan we're going to cover, again, we're going to go 30,000 feet up. We'll get granular. Other episodes, we'll dive very deep into each and every one of the things we're about to talk about. But your action plan is going to be based on really a 4 buckets. It's 4 fundamental buckets of things you have to pay attention to if you really want to optimize your health, your performance, and your lifespan. Each of these categories, which is a little bit of discipline, can have a huge impact on your health. So starting with exercise, category 1, you have to move. And there's all different types of exercise. I mean, running, walking, whether you're doing a Peloton, whether you're in a gym working out, resistance training, whether you're doing group fitness, you name it, any type of activity is better than no activity. We want to make sure that you're doing something that's going to be a frequency. So if you're going to do it 3 times a week, 4 times a week, and for a period of time, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, you want that sustained increase in your heart rate, of course. You got to perspire. That's part of the game. But resistance training is one thing I do want to just highlight because there's lots of studies that have been done, not only the benefits physiologically of the benefits of resistance training and strength training, but also neurologically. There's a whole nother slew of stuff that's coming out, and we'll probably have a whole episode just on this topic. But it's really important to understand that you need to do that. It's also great for bone density as we're aging, especially women. Osteoporosis, osteopenia is more prominent. Really, resistance training for all is going to be the number one key thing for exercise. So try to incorporate that into the activities and exercise bucket for yourself. The next bucket we'll talk about, obviously, is nutrition. We all know that good nutrition is important. And you've probably heard of every diet under the sun, the keto diet, the paleo diet, the Atkins diet, you've heard it diet. Really popular right now is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is a great way for people to lose weight and manage inflammation as well. There's a lot of benefits. You'll hear about the circadian fast, the 16-8. These are some nicknames. And again, we'll put some of the stuff in the show notes. There's tons of information on each individual ones, these types of diets. Really, the best plan for you is what works well for you. Some people really do well on, a high fat, protein type diet. Some people say, well, I need carbohydrates. And it's really how your body responds. I will tell you that the one macronutrient you need to pay attention to is protein, because you really have to make sure that you're managing your lean body mass. And protein is all of the essential amino acids that keep your muscle tissue. So the one area to pay attention to, and again, you can hire a nutritionist, you can read about stuff online, but you paying attention to your nutrition, there's 2 factors you want to understand: the macronutrient breakdown, proteins, carbs, and fats, and also the quantity of those calories, so caloric intake. So if you do restrictive caloric intake, meaning you restrict the amount of calories you're taking in, that's one way to reduce your body fat and reduce your weight. You also can look at time restrictive eating, which is intermittent fasting. So that's another way. You only eat in a certain window of time, The 16-8, for instance, is 16 hours fasting, 8 hours of a feeding window. That works very well for a lot of people. But the quality of those calories, so the macronutrients, what and when I am eating, whether it's caloric restriction or time restriction, what is the quality of those calories and those macronutrients that I'm eating? So I will tell you that protein will be the most important quality macronutrient from being in the fitness industry for many, many years and being around athletes and bodybuilders and fitness enthusiasts and very healthy people, and also now biohackers. We know that paying attention to lean body mass is very, very important. Your energy source, whether it's from carbohydrates or fat, the one thing that we all probably would agree is that reducing sugar intake as much as you can, and of course, that also means alcohol consumption, is going to be really important. So I'm going to lose a lot of listeners, I think, and viewers when we talk about reducing alcohol consumption. But the fact of the matter is you just have to do it. Another recent study just came out that there's just zero value to alcohol consumption for any human. Like there's none. Like they used to say, oh, red wine, resveratrol, but the sugar and the alcohol content just outweighs that benefit. And quite frankly, there's a ton of fantastic resveratrol supplements on the market that you could get right now, which will lead me to the next bucket that we're going to talk about, which actually is supplementation, vitamin nutrition supplementation. And vitamin nutrition supplementation is critical. And we can actually lob into their prescription now as well. So you've got nutraceuticals and prescription medicine. So that kind of falls into one bucket. Right now, the vitamin supplement industry is booming, and for good reason. There's some incredible evidence that the nutrition that we're getting from the foods we eat just is not the same as it was 10, 20, or 30 years ago. And think about it from a logistics standpoint, that we're cultivating, fruits and vegetables on the same farming soil for years and years and years. The degradation of the nutrients in that soil, I mean, that's an obvious one. How we transport, store, and then get food to our table. It's very rare we're farm to table anymore today. So all of these things that we just talked about reduce the actual nutrition that comes from the food we consume. So supplementation is a great way with vitamins and nutraceuticals to optimize the food you're getting and get those vitamins into your body. So whether it's just your basic generic multivitamin, I mean, there's a litany. You go to a health food store, your eyeballs will fall out. There's just so many choices now. Really qualifying the type of nutraceutical you're taking, the type of supplement you're taking is really important. Knowing the source and the background of the company that's manufacturing those vitamins. So when you're shopping for this stuff, do your due diligence. It's really important, because not all vitamins are created equally, but understanding what your deficiencies are, going back to that initial blood work. You might be deficient in vitamin D, and then understanding why am I deficient in vitamin D. There's a litany of reasons. Maybe you're not taking in enough K2. K2 helps you absorb vitamin D3. So there's just so much science that gets behind that. But take the time to understand that, because this is your body, this is your life. We spend so much time. I talk to so many people, friends of mine, people that I consult with forever about health and wellness. I said, we spend so much time on studying things that are just so irrelevant, reading things that have to do with things that really will matter, not nearly as important to your quality of your life or maintaining your health. So I always tell people, study, take a few minutes and read up on this stuff, especially when it comes to nutraceuticals. The benefits are enormous. I take a ton of vitamins. I probably take, 25 to 30 pills a day. And it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. I also do intravenous nutraceuticals as well. There's lots of ways to get your vitamins. The easiest way is an oral vitamin that you're gonna purchase at a health food store or online. That being said, there's also a prescriptive component as well. When you do your blood work, if you find there might be a couple of things that are happening. For instance, if you're in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, you may have certain symptoms. You may be tired after you sleep at night. You may have issues with concentration and focus. 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're just feeling sluggish. You have brain fog. Some of these things I'm talking about might be a hormone deficiency issue. And looking at those numbers and understanding that and getting yourself you can get optimized with hormone replacement therapy. Or you might be something where your A1C is really drifted high, and it's a 6.5, 6.7, or even worse, and you're a pre-diabetic and you don't even know it. And there's lots of people walking around, by the way, that are on high sugar consumption diets that are just having issues with their A1C. Your fasted glucose, just to give a quick reference to this on your blood work, your fasted glucose is one number you look at for this, and another number is your A1C. The really important thing to pay attention to is, remember, fasted glucose is just a quick snippet of what's happening that day in that moment. And then your A1C is a much longer period of time looking at that blood sugar. The A1C is definitely the better number to pay attention to for a real overall picture of your health. So that being said, if you have a high A1C, there are medications, there are prescriptions that your medical practitioner can prescribe to you if you have these issues. So this is the type of thing that falls into a bucket together. I put prescriptions and supplements together because, quite frankly, I think we should all be monitoring. There's also prescription peptides, huge amounts of information. We'll probably have a full episode on peptides. In fact, we will have a full episode on peptides because they're becoming so impactful in the health and fitness and wellness world that they deserve some time to be a real in-depth conversation. And the last bucket is sleep optimization. And by the way, everything I've just mentioned, except for the supplements and prescriptions, cost you no money, right? You could do all this stuff for free. Sleep is free. You'll see on this thing, this is not just my wedding band. This is my Aura ring that I'm wearing on my hand right now. For those of you that are listening, I'm wearing an Aura ring. And again, not a plug for Aura. They're not paying me. I'm just a huge fan for Aura. I've been wearing my ring for a long time because I found out how important at a seminar. I learned that sleep was one of the most important factors for your health, aging, and all of your biological processes. And I didn't understand my sleep at all. I didn't understand the stages. I knew nothing about it. And most people don't. They think, oh, I went to bed at midnight. I woke up at 8. I got 8 hours of sleep. That's completely untrue. And if you wear a device that manages your sleep patterns, you will clearly find out that that's not the case. The different stages of sleep, how often you wake up, do you have sleep apnea? I mean, that's a huge problem that would have to be addressed very quickly if you do in fact have that. Doesn't mean you have to go for a sleep study, although I do recommend everyone get a sleep study. I've had 2 of them. They're fantastic. You'll learn a lot about your sleep and your sleep patterns. They do them in these really cool facilities now. But just wearing a device that manages your sleep patterns is really, really important. What I had found out that and just people I talked to and friends that I've introduced to some of these devices to that are now using wearables to manage this stuff, it's crazy some of the stuff I hear. Like, I had a friend who told me, he goes, yeah, I get like 4 minutes of deep sleep. And I'm like, holy cow, that's like deep sleep is where your body does a lot of the recovery stuff. REM sleep is where your brain gets that, we call it the brain washing, where your brain gets that lymphatic cleanse. And, that's when your dreaming is during REM sleep. And you need these stages of sleep to occur. And then once you know where you're lacking in sleep, whether it's I can't fall asleep, or once I do fall asleep, I wake up, or once I wake up, I can't get back to sleep. These are all individual sleep challenges. And there's some amazing sleep study coaches out there. There's some great people that do this. I've met with one. I've had one as a speaker at a group I'm part of, and learned some incredible things. But I also learned there are some small hacks to optimize sleep. Things like, and you may have seen this because now there's memes all over Instagram and Twitter and everywhere about turning your devices off 2 hours before. Very important. Changing the screen tone later at night. I do wear the glasses that are the blue light blocking glasses later in the day. Some of them actually kind of look okay now. That they don't look like you're out of space. These space goggles they used to look like. Now they made them. There's a couple pairs out there that are actually really nice. But I wear sleep optimizing glasses, I call them, in the evenings when I know I'm going to start toning down my day. For those of us that are, type A and you're going 100 miles an hour and you're super aggressive, well, you got to tone your day down. You got to turn your brain down. So there's a couple of ways to do that. A couple of hacks for this. I'll give you a few quick ones. Obviously, of course, getting rid of any type of email and stuff an hour or two before. Do not consume any food 2 to 3 hours prior to bedtime, especially carbohydrates. Right, the sugar in your body's going to think it's going to get some energy. Glucose is the energy, right? So you don't want any of that in your system. Stop drinking. I'm a big fan of hydration, drinking water throughout the day, but you want to cut that out at least an hour before because you don't want to, have to go to the bathroom. Again, that'll wake you up in the middle of the night. Also, a cup of chamomile tea might be the last thing you consume that hour before. Chamomile tea is kind of calming, relaxing. You go into the store, you'll literally see teas that are nicknamed Sleepy Time or Calm or whatever they are. Those are all great. Some of them have lavender, some have chamomile, ginger. Those all, are great for and it's a good process too. It's a good habit that just it's a ritual that will relax you. A great supplement, there's magnesium supplements for sleep. One of the packets that we actually have at our anti-aging centers, the last packet of the day is a mineral packet that includes magnesium, which is also kind of calming on the brain. It relaxes you. A little selenium, a tiny bit of lithium, not tripping acid lithium. It's a very small dose of lithium. It just relaxes your brain. But all of these ritualistic things you do are important to managing. And let me not forget this, and I almost did, caffeine you got to cut caffeine out. Like I would say, if you're going to go to bed at a reasonable hour, you got to cut caffeine off at like 3 o'clock. Like you can start your morning, maybe an hour or two after you wake up. You might have a cup of coffee, or you might have a matcha tea, or whatever your form is. But if you're drinking caffeine currently, you need to back that off much earlier in the day if you want to optimize your sleep. So sleep optimization is one of the most important things you can do. Again, cost you nothing. You want to wear a wearable, that's your only expense, and you can track it in these apps. The apps are fantastic. I would recommend that to anyone who's just starting out on learning how they want to optimize their health. Sleep is one of the first things people ask me all the time, and they think I'm going to answer fitness or exercise or the gym because I've been a gym guy my whole life, right? Prior to getting to the anti-aging space, I was in the fitness space for my whole career. And although I love and I'm very passionate about exercise and fitness and working out with weights, I will tell you that sleep is the number one thing you must fix if it's broken for your health and your longevity. It's a must. It's a box that you can't leave unchecked. And then everything else falls underneath that. And again, once you start optimizing your sleep, you'll have more energy in the morning. You'll want to exercise more. Things will start working. Believe it or not, you will lose more body fat. I know it sounds crazy, but yes, it's true, because your body's releasing growth hormone when you're sleeping. All of these things that relate to the things that will essentially help you keep lean body mass. It all comes back to how you're recovering. And people don't understand this sometimes. When you go into the gym, that's not where the work is really done. The 1 hour in the gym is all of that time you put in there is useless unless you can recover from that. Your muscles can do the repair process. And if you don't get good sleep, that's not going to happen. So I probably will spend more time on sleep optimization than anything else for the reason that it warrants it. So sleep optimization is the last bucket I talked about, but is the most important bucket in this whole process. And again, we'll do further episodes and we will break down each of these. So this was the 30,000 foot. We're going to get into the weeds on each one of these buckets because all of them deserve the amount of time, because they're so important and critical to help you optimize your health span and your lifespan. Let me define those two words really quick. So lifespan is the length of years in your life, and health span is the quality of those years in your life. And there's some phenomenal people that are out there that have been podcasting and writing books and doing the research and doing the study that you're going to want to start to follow and pay attention to. So if I'm your first, rendezvous into this, the world of biohacking and health span and wellness, you should follow a handful of people. Dr. Peter T is a fantastic person to follow. He's got some incredible information. He just wrote a wonderful book called Outlive. I'm still reading it now. It's amazing. Covers a lot of great topics. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, she's got a great podcast as well, but she's got some good information out there. And everyone, most of these people have been guests on places like Joe Rogan. It made him really popular. Dr. David St. Clair is another great person doing outstanding things in the lifespan space and longevity space. And some of these people, these names, these are people that I've been a huge fan of and paying attention to and reading their work. Learned so much from some of them, but there's lots of ways you can consume this information. Reliable resources are going to be the first, qualifying thing where, what's the background? I will tell you, my passion in my life has always been around health and fitness. That's the only thing I've kind of done my whole career. And now being in the space of health span and lifespan and anti-aging, which is the next iteration of health and fitness. There's nothing like it. Knowledge is power, like I said early on. So hopefully in the next episode, we're going to dive deep together. I'm looking forward to, questions and comments. If you have any types of things you want to say about this particular episode, or if I do talk pretty quickly, if there's something that you want me to elaborate on in another episode, drop it in the comments. I'm certainly here for your benefit. This is going to be a great podcast together. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I look forward to being with you in the future and look forward to hearing your questions and comments as well.